Welcome to Learn English with Legends. In this video, you'll improve your English while discovering the incredible life story of Stephen Hawking, a man who proved that even when your body stops working, your mind can still touch the stars.
Stephen Hawking, the formative years, childhood and adolescence. Stephen William Hawking was born on January 8, 1942, in Oxford, England, a city steeped in centuries of academic tradition. The timing of his birth, exactly 300 years after the death of Galileo Galilei, was a curious coincidence, one that some would later reflect on as almost poetic, a sign that the universe was weaving a story for him even before he had the words to tell it. His parents, Frank and Isabel Hawking, were remarkable individuals in their own right. Frank, a medical researcher, had a mind that constantly sought logic, precision, and answers to complex questions. Isabel, vibrant and socially conscious, had a love for education and community involvement. Together, they created a home environment that was intellectually stimulating, nurturing curiosity while teaching the value of persistence and empathy. Their marriage, while formal in appearance, was a partnership of equals, and both parents devoted themselves to the education and personal growth of their children. Stephen was the eldest of 4 children, with a brother Edward and 2 sisters, Mary and Philippa. From the very beginning, Stephen exhibited traits that set him apart. He was not the most physically robust child, slender and sometimes awkward, but his mind was extraordinarily active. By the age of 2, he was already showing signs of curiosity beyond what was expected for a toddler, pointing at the night sky and asking questions about stars, the moon, and the mysterious forces that seemed to govern the world. The Hawking household was filled with books, puzzles, and debates. Stephen's father often encouraged him to explore scientific ideas, giving him small experiments to try at home, like measuring how water flowed or observing the movement of insects. Isabel, on the other hand, nurtured Stephen's emotional intelligence, teaching him compassion, social awareness, and the importance of connecting with people beyond mere academic achievement. This balance between intellectual stimulation and emotional growth became a cornerstone of Stephen's character. Stephen's early childhood memories were rich with imagination. He would spend hours creating intricate models of the universe with simple household materials, arranging cardboard planets on strings and simulating their orbits. He enjoyed reading books far above his grade level, from introductory astronomy texts to biographies of scientists, absorbing knowledge voraciously. Family friends recalled how Stephen could sit silently, eyes wide with fascination, lost in thought, as if he were already traveling to distant galaxies. School presented both opportunities and challenges. Stephen attended local schools in Oxford, where his brilliance became apparent early on. Teachers recognized his exceptional intellect, especially in mathematics and science, but also noticed his unconventional approach to learning. Unlike many students who thrived in structured environments, Stephen preferred exploring concepts at his own pace, asking questions that sometimes bewildered his instructors. Why do we accept that gravity works this way? He might ask, challenging assumptions in a manner both curious and precocious. Despite his intellectual gifts, Stephen was not immune to the social dynamics of childhood. He was thin, somewhat clumsy, and occasionally the target of teasing by peers. Yet he developed a resilience that would define him in later years. Instead of being discouraged, he learned to navigate social challenges with humor, wit, and an inner confidence in his abilities. He often formed close bonds with a small circle of friends who shared his curiosity, playing games that combined physical activity with scientific exploration, like measuring distances, timing swings, or experimenting with homemade rockets. The Hawking children were encouraged to pursue their interests, and Stephen quickly discovered a love for logic puzzles and mechanical toys. He had a particular fascination with mechanical clocks, often disassembling and reassembling them to understand their inner workings. These early experiments taught him not only patience and problem-solving skills, but also the joy of discovering patterns and understanding complex systems, a skill that would later become central to his work in physics. Stephen's teenage years marked a period of both intellectual and personal growth. By age 11, he had already displayed an aptitude for advanced mathematics. He enrolled in St. Albans School, where he began to excel in physics and geometry, earning recognition for his analytical skills. Yet even in this academically rigorous environment, Stephen retained his sense of wonder. He was fascinated by the night sky, spending evenings with his telescope, observing the stars, planets, and the occasional comet. These quiet moments under the cosmos deepened his sense of connection to the universe and ignited questions about time, space, and the very origin of existence. During adolescence, Stephen's personality became increasingly defined by his humor and curiosity. Friends and family recall his playful, sometimes mischievous nature. He loved wordplay, riddles, and clever tricks, which he used both to entertain and to think critically. Yet behind this playful exterior was a mind constantly analyzing, synthesizing, and exploring ideas that many adults would find challenging. He was already thinking about the questions that would shape his scientific career. What is a nature time? How do stars and galaxies form? Could the universe have a beginning or an end? Stephen's family remained a constant source of support. His father, while strict in some ways, encouraged rigorous thinking and high standards. His mother offered warmth, empathy, and the freedom to explore without judgment. This dual influence gave Stephen the courage to pursue unconventional ideas and to remain resilient in the face of obstacles. His siblings also played important roles. Mary and Philippa shared in many of his explorations, sometimes participating in experiments, sometimes serving as willing audience members for his imaginative theories and demonstrations. One formative experience occurred during a family trip to St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall. Stephen, then 13, was fascinated by the tides, the movement of the sun across the sky, and the way shadows shifted on the sand. He asked his father countless questions about gravitational pull, the motion of celestial bodies, and the physics behind the waves. Frank Hawking encouraged his curiosity, discussing Newton's laws and the principles of orbital mechanics in ways a teenager could grasp. This moment, like many others, planted the seeds for Stephen's future focus on gravity, black holes, and the cosmos. At school, Stephen's talents sometimes clashed with traditional teaching methods. He was impatient with rote memorization and favored conceptual understanding. Teachers remembered his relentless questioning and his insistence on understanding the why behind everything. His brilliance sometimes intimidated peers, but also attracted mentors who recognized his potential. By his mid-teens, Stephen had decided to pursue mathematics and physics as his life's calling, inspired not only by textbooks, but by the tangible, poetic mysteries of the universe. Alongside academics, Stephen developed hobbies that would shape his creativity and problem-solving skills. He built small mechanical devices, conducted simple chemistry experiments at home, and enjoyed building miniature rockets. He also loved storytelling, often imagining scenarios about time travel, distant galaxies, or parallel universes. These creative exercises, though playful, strengthened the very skills, imagination, logic, and abstract thinking that would later underpin his scientific breakthroughs. Stephen's teenage years were also the first period when he began noticing subtle physical changes. Though ALS would not be diagnosed until later, he occasionally felt stiffness in his limbs and slight difficulties in coordination. At the time, these changes were minor, and Stephen's attention remained largely on intellectual pursuits. Yet these early challenges would foreshadow a lifelong struggle with disease that could not dim the brilliance of his mind. By the time he approached university age, Stephen Hawking was a young man of remarkable curiosity, humor, and resilience. He had a profound understanding of the natural world for his age, a playful yet analytical mind, and a strong sense of self. His early experiences, family support, friendships, school challenges, and endless nights gazing at the stars had shaped him into someone prepared to face the unknown, both in science and in life. Little did he know that the universe he loved to observe would one day be the very canvas on which he would leave an indelible mark. Part 2. University Years, Awakening a Scientific Mind and Facing Life's Challenges. At the age of 17, Stephen Hawking left the quiet streets of Oxford for the hallowed halls of University College, Cambridge. The transition was both exhilarating and intimidating. Cambridge was a world of intellects and traditions, a place where some of the greatest minds in mathematics and physics had walked before him. It was here that Stephen's fascination with the universe would deepen, and his extraordinary mind would meet challenges that tested not only his intellect, but also his resilience. From the very first days, Stephen felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. The grandeur of Cambridge, the centuries-old buildings, the sprawling lawns, and the echo of scholarly footsteps was almost cinematic. Stephen, with his slender frame and slightly awkward gait, sometimes felt out of place among students who seemed confident and poised. Yet he quickly realized that in this environment, curiosity and brilliance were what mattered most, not physical appearance or social polish. Cambridge offered Stephen intellectual freedom unlike anything he had experienced before. He immersed himself in the study of theoretical physics, exploring classical mechanics, thermodynamics, and the groundbreaking ideas of Einstein's general relativity. He spent long hours in the college library, buried in textbooks, scribbling equations on scraps of paper, or lying on the grass under the winter sky, contemplating the vastness of the universe. Nights became his companions as he pondered questions that seemed infinite. What is time? How do black holes form? Could the universe have a beginning or an end? Social life at Cambridge also played a pivotal role in shaping Stephen. Despite his intellect, he was approachable, charming in his dry humor, and capable of forming deep friendships. He gravitated toward peers who shared his curiosity and his love for debate. Many remember Stephen's playful teasing, clever puns, and a knack for pointing out the absurdities of life with a twinkle in his eye. But behind this humor was a young man of extraordinary focus and determination, someone who could spend hours lost in thought, oblivious to the world around him. During this period, Stephen began to form ideas that would later define his scientific career. He was captivated by cosmology and the nature of black holes, fascinated by the interplay between quantum mechanics and general relativity. He explored concepts like singularities, event horizons, and the thermodynamics of the cosmos, not merely as abstract mathematics, but as profound mysteries that might reveal the secrets of existence itself. Friends recall Stephen explaining complex theories with analogies drawn from everyday life, imagining the warping of space-time as a trampoline stretched beneath a heavy ball, or describing black holes as cosmic vacuum cleaners with inscrutable mysteries inside. Amid these intellectual pursuits, life presented Stephen with challenges that tested his spirit. At the age of 21, he noticed subtle physical changes, clumsiness, occasional muscle weakness, and difficulties with coordination. These symptoms, initially minor, gradually worsened. After thorough medical evaluation, he received a diagnosis that would shock and change his life: amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a neurodegenerative disease that gradually paralyzed the body. Doctors predicted he had only a few years to live. The news could have been devastating. Many would have been overwhelmed by fear, despair, or resignation. But Stephen's response was not surrender, it was resolve. Rather than focusing on limitations, he focused on what he could achieve. He refused to allow ALS to define him, understanding early on that his mind remained free, creative, and limitless. Friends remember his characteristic humor in responding to the diagnosis, making jokes that lightened the heaviness of the moment, demonstrating an extraordinary resilience that would mark his life. University life was also where Stephen's personal relationships matured. He encountered individuals who would influence his emotional and intellectual growth. He formed close friendships with fellow students, sharing late-night discussions, debates, and moments of laughter. These friendships provided not just companionship, but a sense of normalcy, grounding him amid the uncertainty brought by ALS. Stephen learned the value of connection, trust, and shared curiosity, lessons that would inform his approach to both life and science. Romantic interests emerged during this period as well. Stephen, introspective and sometimes shy, was drawn to women of intelligence and independence. These early relationships taught him about love, empathy, and the complexities of human emotion. His ability to balance his personal life, academic brilliance, and the early struggles with ALS reflected a maturity beyond his years. Despite the growing physical limitations, Stephen's scientific career progressed rapidly. He began publishing papers on cosmology and gravitational physics, attracting the attention of leading physicists worldwide. He proposed ideas that challenged existing assumptions about black holes, singularities, and the fundamental nature of the universe. His work was marked by clarity, creativity, and a boldness that few dared to exhibit. At the same time, he maintained a fascination with making science accessible to the broader public, foreshadowing his later success as a communicator of complex ideas. Daily life during these years was a mixture of rigorous study, intellectual exploration, and adaptation of physical challenges. Stephen learned to navigate Cambridge with increasing difficulty as his mobility decreased, relying on friends and later technological aids. Yet these obstacles never dampened his spirit. In fact, they seemed to fuel his determination. Every equation solved, every lecture delivered, and every concept understood was a victory over the limitations imposed by his body. By the time Stephen graduated with his doctorate, he had already begun to establish himself as a physicist of extraordinary promise. His mind, unbounded by physical constraints, had begun to chart new territories in the understanding of space, time, and the universe itself. The early days at Cambridge had taught him not only science, but also resilience, humor, and the power of human connection, lessons that would carry him through decades of groundbreaking work and personal challenges. Stephen Hawking's university years were transformative. They revealed a young man of brilliance, courage, and relentless curiosity. He faced one of life's most daunting diagnoses with dignity and determination, forging friendships, exploring the universe's deepest mysteries, and setting the stage for a life that would inspire millions. It was in these formative years that the seeds of a legacy were planted, a legacy of intellect, humor, courage, and the indomitable human spirit. Part 3: Adulthood, Marriage, and Scientific Breakthroughs. After completing his doctoral studies at Cambridge, Stephen Hawking entered a new chapter of life, one full of promise, challenges, and opportunities to leave an indelible mark on the world. Although ALS had begun to affect his body, Stephen's mind remained sharp, imaginative, and unyielding. This combination of brilliance and resilience defined the next stage of his life. In 1965, Stephen met Jane Wilde, a young woman with intelligence, wit, and compassion. Their meeting was the beginning of a deep partnership. Jane was drawn not only to Stephen's intellect, but also to his humor, curiosity, and determination to live fully despite ALS. Their courtship was characterized by long walks, lively discussions about literature and science, and playful debates about the mysteries of the cosmos. Friends recall Stephen teasing Jane about her love for poetry, while Jane challenged him to explain complex physics in everyday terms, a challenge Stephen accepted with both patience and humor. Their marriage that same year marked a union of minds and hearts. Jane became not only a loving partner, but also a steadfast support system, managing the practical challenges of ALS while nurturing Stephen's intellectual pursuits. Together, they faced the physical and emotional trials of his illness, finding strength in mutual respect, humor, and shared goals. Their life together was a blend of ordinary domesticity, family meals, raising children, enjoying books, and extraordinary scientific exploration. Stephen's scientific work during this period reached new heights. He began to explore the properties of black holes, challenging established notions and proposing revolutionary ideas. One of his most famous contributions, Hawking radiation, suggested that black holes are not entirely black, but emit radiation, slowly evaporating over time. This insight bridged quantum mechanics and general relativity in a way that reshaped modern physics. His colleagues often marveled not only at his genius, but also at his ability to remain engaged with complex ideas while grappling with physical limitations. Daily life was a careful balance between family responsibilities, scientific work, and the progression of ALS. As the disease advanced, Stephen lost the ability to walk and, eventually, to speak without assistance. Yet these limitations did not dampen his spirit. Stephen embraced technology, from simple communication boards to sophisticated speech-generating devices, which allowed him to continue lecturing, writing, and interacting with colleagues worldwide. Witnesses often describe the awe-inspiring image of man confined to a wheelchair, yet commanding lecture halls with his intellect and humor. Travel became a major part of Stephen's adult life. He attended international conferences, delivering talks on the nature of black holes, the origin of the universe, and the mysteries of time. While traveling with ALS posed logistical challenges, Stephen approached each journey with determination and optimism. Stories abound his humor and charm during these trips, engaging audiences, making friends in every country, and inspiring young scientists to pursue their passions despite obstacles. Stephen's personal relationships also evolved during these years. Raising 3 children, Lucy, Robert, and Timothy, added another dimension to his life. He cherished family moments, reading bedtime stories, playing games, and nurturing curiosity in his children, often explaining scientific concepts in playful and accessible ways. These interactions revealed a man who, despite public fame and scientific acclaim, valued love, laughter, and the simple joys of human connection. In addition to his academic achievements, Stephen's public presence grew. He became a cultural icon, appearing in documentaries, television programs, and eventually writing his landmark book, A Brief History of Time, in 1988. The book brought the complexities of cosmology to millions of readers worldwide, blending scientific rigor with narrative storytelling. Through this work, Stephen became not just a physicist, but an ambassador for science, demonstrating that curiosity, imagination, and courage could illuminate even the most challenging corners of the universe. Despite the extraordinary attention and admiration, Stephen remained remarkably grounded. Friends and colleagues consistently described him as humorous, humble, and deeply reflective. He often joked about his condition, using wit as a shield and a bridge to connect with others. His life was a testament to the idea that limitations, whether physical or societal, do not define the worth or potential of an individual. Even as ALS progressed, Stephen continued to work tirelessly. He mentored students, collaborated with fellow physicists, and contributed to projects that expanded human understanding of the cosmos. His ideas about singularities, black hole thermodynamics, and the interplay between quantum mechanics and general relativity cemented his reputation as one of the most influential scientists of his generation. Stephen Hawking's adult years were marked by a dual narrative: the relentless pursuit of scientific truth and the courageous navigation of personal challenges. He demonstrated that life, no matter how constrained by circumstance, could be rich, fulfilling, and impactful. His journey during this period showcased resilience, intellect, humor, and the extraordinary ability to inspire, making him a figure whose story transcends the boundaries of science alone. Part 4. Global Recognition, Perseverance, and Legacy. As Stephen Hawking entered the later stages of his life, his influence and reputation transcended the boundaries of science. He became a global figure, celebrated not only for his extraordinary intellect, but also for his courage, humor, and determination in the face of progressively debilitating disease. After his first marriage faced challenges, Stephen remarried Elaine Mason, one of his caregivers. This relationship brought its own complexities, yet highlighted the continuous human struggle for connection, understanding, and companionship. Throughout his life, Stephen remained deeply connected to his children, Lucy, Robert, and Timothy, finding joy, pride, and grounding in his role as a father. Family moments, from reading bedtime stories to playful interactions, became vital sources of motivation and happiness. Stephen's scientific achievements during this period were extraordinary. His work on black hole thermodynamics, the nature of singularities, and the origin of the universe cemented his position as one of the most influential physicists of the 20th and 21st centuries. He continued to write, lecture, and appear in documentaries, translating complex scientific concepts into narratives accessible to the general public. His ability to communicate profound ideas with clarity and humor inspired millions to engage with science and see the universe in a new light. Even as ALS confined him to a wheelchair and eventually required a computerized voice to communicate, Stephen never ceased engaging with the world. Technology became a bridge, allowing him to lecture, write, and debate across continents. Conferences, meetings with global leaders, and scientific collaborations kept him intellectually vibrant. Observers often marvel at the image of a man physically constrained but mentally boundless, captivating audiences with insight and wit. Stephen's personality continued to shine. Known for his dry humor and clever quips, he often made light of his own condition, endearing himself to colleagues, students, and the public. He famously remarked on his longevity, despite a grim prognosis, using humor to highlight the triumph of the mind and spirit over physical adversity. His life became a living example of resilience, courage, and the power of human determination. Beyond science, Stephen became an advocate and inspiration for people with disabilities. His story challenged societal perceptions, demonstrating that physical limitations do not dictate the potential of the mind or spirit. He encouraged accessibility, inclusivity, and the pursuit of knowledge despite adversity. He embodied a principle that resonated universally. Determination and creativity can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Stephen's public persona extended into popular culture. He made appearances on shows like The Simpsons and Star Trek, and inspired countless books, films, and documentaries. Through these appearances, his life story reached diverse audiences, bridging the gap between science and everyday life. Millions were inspired not only by his discoveries, but by the narrative of a man confronting profound challenges with humor, intellect, and grace. Even as ALS progressed, Stephen's contributions continued. He guided research, mentored young scientists, and worked on projects that advanced understanding of the cosmos. His theories on black holes, quantum mechanics, and the nature of the universe influenced generations of physicists and thinkers. Beyond equations and publications, he left a legacy of curiosity, perseverance, and optimism that transcended disciplinary boundaries. Stephen Hawking passed away on March 14, 2018, at the age of 76. His death marked the end of a life that had profoundly shaped science, culture, and human inspiration. Yet his legacy lives on, in the equations he formulated, the theories he developed, the books he wrote, and the countless lives he touched with his courage and intellect. Stephen Hawking demonstrated that the human spirit is capable of overcoming incredible obstacles. His life story inspires people worldwide to pursue knowledge, embrace curiosity, and confront challenges with resilience, humor, and hope. He was not only a brilliant physicist, but also a symbol of human potential, showing that the boundaries of the mind far exceed the limitations of the body. His journey, from a curious, imaginative child in Oxford to a globally recognized scientist confronting ALS with courage, remains a timeless narrative of perseverance, intellect, and inspiration. Stephen Hawking's life was proof that challenges, no matter how formidable, can be met with curiosity, determination, and unwavering optimism.
Thank you for watching. You can comment below and tell me which legend you'd like me to talk about next. See you in the next video.